Hello and welcome to this first tutorial about Pong. In this tutorial we'll look at putting in some of our sprites, definitely the paddle, and we will also look at getting that paddle to move. So let's get right into it. So I've got my Unity open, it's set to 2D. I'm just going to go to my 2x3, which I prefer, and just make sure we get that. There we go, and just drag this one down over here. Okay, so in the olden days, we had to go into Photoshop or something and create our little assets. However, it's made it quite a bit easier. I'm just going to click, we'll make a new folder here, create folder, and I'll call this Sprites. We'll do that right away. And in that folder, I am going to create. So I think I'll just right click, create, and then down here, there is a sprite, and then you can choose. And at the moment, I mean, square is as close as we're going to get to what we want. We want a rectangle for a paddle, but that's pretty good. So there it is. It's our square. And we can actually, let's just call this one ball. We'll do the ball right away while we're at it here. And just bringing it in, just to give us a size idea. So I'm going to scale it down probably about half of what it was. We can leave, we'll just do all of them there. That's probably good. We can change that later on. Let's do another one while we're at it for the paddle. And so I'm just going to go to sprites, square again. And so this one we'll just call player paddle. That's probably a good name for it. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'll bring it in as well. But we need to change its shape a little bit. So I think in terms of the X, probably that half is good there. And then I might just double this length here. So that seems reasonable. Again, you can change it up. I mean, you might want to consider 1.5, 1.75. It's kind of up to you here. And play testing will let you know what works best for your game. So there it is there. And what I might also do, I'm not too concerned about the position at the moment. I haven't zeroed them out. I'm going to throw it over to the far side here so that I can roughly get the X position, because I'll be using that in a few minutes. Okay, so we've got two of our things in here. Pong is traditionally white paddle, white ball, black background. So let's just get that set up as well. So I'm just going to go to my main camera. Because we set it to 2D, it's already set the background to a solid color. I'm just going to click on this and find our black. Our black here would be all red, green, blue turned off, right? So 0, 0, 0 on those, and then that's good. So now we just have that iconic black on white background. Okay, pretty good. We will do our script next. So again, I'm going to come back into my assets folder, just making it nice and clear, or clean, I guess, and I'm going to create a script. So this script is going to be our paddle controller. So PlayerMovement or something we can call it. So I'm just going to create a C# script. Remember, change it right away. So I'm going to call it PlayerMovement. And unlike our last game, we're going to keep this pretty pure. It's just going to focus on the player movement here. So I'm just going to double click on that, whatever else it's doing. Give it a second to open Visual Studio. I'm only using 2017 here. And we're going to get going with the coding right away. Now, this code, like I said, we're just going to concentrate on the player paddle. We're not going to put anything else in it. We are also going to do a different movement. We don't want movement based on sort of the physics at this time. And you notice I did not put a rigid body on it. And that's because we're trying to create this arcade. It's not sort of falling. We're not going to add force. We're just going to basically change its position. So what I'm going to do is right at the top, I'm going to create two variables. One, which I'll do the serialized field here so that actually I'm going to set this public because you might want to change this later on. So, and it might want to change it from a different script. So I'm going to keep that one like that. And I'm going to put it as a float just in case we want to have some decimal control over it. Okay. Again, this might change in terms of your needs, but what I'm thinking here is if it's public, we're going to create a game manager, and you'll see that later on. And as the game gets going faster or whatever as a power up or something like that, you might want to change the paddle speed. So that's why I've set this to public. Okay. The other one is just going to be a vector 2. So X and Y position, and that's going to be our player position. Okay. We're actually not going to do anything at the start. We could set the paddle position, but I think with just in the update, that will be good enough. I am going to create a float, okay? And that's going to hold the Y position. And we are only, in this game version of Pong at least, we're only going to move the Y position. X is fixed. It doesn't move horizontal. It only moves vertically. So that's why we can just sort of limit our input or player control to just having the Y position. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically grab the transform dot position dot Y. So we're grabbing its current position, and then we're just going to add on, so the input dot get axis, and then we're going to use the vertical, whoops, put that in quotations there, vertical input axis, just like we did with our previous game. And then what I'm going to do here is multiply it by the paddle speed and also the time dot delta time. Good. All right. So basically what happens here is every frame, we're going to create a new Y position variable based on its current position and the input basically, and then we can control the quality, or not the quality, I guess the quantity of that input, how big it is based on paddle speed, and then use the time.delta time to make sure the game plays consistently across machines. All right, so once we've done that, we actually have to sort of define what the player position is going to be. And so we'll use that player pos, the player position. And so we're going to create a new vector 2. So basically a new position. And now let's go back to our game here because we need our X and our Y values. Now you already know the Y position, right? We've got that. But our X value, our X position is going to be fixed. So that's why I suggested, placing this roughly where you can see sort of the edge here. So based on this, let's just go back to our player paddle. So negative 11.5 might be fine. Okay, this again, a little bit up to you there. It's nice to have a round number, so I think I'll just make sure that that looks okay. I mean, it didn't move it at all really, but there it is. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. So negative 11.5 on the y-axis. So negative 11.5. And now, what we'll do, and then we'll fix this up a little bit, we'll just make this the Y position, okay? And we'll come back to that in a second. Now the red here is because we have to tell it is a float number. So just putting that F after it indicates it's a float. Okay, that just created another variable, right? We kind of created the Y position, then we created this whole vector 2, so it has its XY coordinate. Now we have to actually update that position. So what I'll do is transform dot position, and we'll set that to our player position. Good. All right, let's take a look at this working. So I'm going to save that. Go back to Unity. I apologize for my 11-year-old computer here at home. Good. And hit play. And once that's going, hopefully, oh, you know what I forgot to do though? Haha, Mr. Fleming forgot to add the script. So on my player paddle, make sure you drag the script on. And the player speed also, set that to some value. I'm going to set it to 10 to start with. I don't know if that's too fast or too slow, but that will be something we can adjust. Okay, so once that is going up and down, now that doesn't seem too bad. Now there is one problem, right? It's going off the screen. And I mean, you could be really silly as a player and just keep going on forever. Okay, so, and it could get lost, right? And it's sort of a little bit frustrating. So what we'll do is we'll fix that. We'll limit the position to, not being able to go beyond here and not being able to go beyond the bottom here. So very simple how to do that. Use a clamp, and we'll talk about how to use that here. So instead of just Y position, I'm going to come in and I'm going to use a math function. So math.f sort of means a bunch of math stuff. And you can see here, there's equals, clamp, well, there's the clamp, right? There's all this math things, lerp, maybe you've heard about some of these things, maybe you haven't. Ping pong, interesting one. Repeat, round, and so on, sine, cosine. So there's all these math things. The one we're going to use is this math.clamp. And so what that does is it allows us to clamp or limit the movement. And so what we have to do is, like it says here, we have to put in some sort of value. And that's going to be the Y position. And then you're going to be able to define a min and a max. And that's why this is really helpful here, right? It explains what it's going to do. So what we're going to put in as our value is our Y position, because that's really what we're, the original value we wanted in there. But then we can set a min and a max value for that. Again, I'm going to jump back to Unity here and take a look. And so again, I just grab this and looking at the Y value, so roughly there, so 4, you'd sort of have to define it, just sort of take it 4 point, I don't really mind it going a little bit beyond, so I get 4.3 there, and probably, right, it's going to be negative 4.3, that's going to be fine. Good. All right, so let's do that. So the min first, and make sure they go in order here. So minus 4.3, we'll put F there just to make sure it's a float, and then 4.3 F to make sure it's a float as well. And the red is still there. Oh, and guess what I forgot? One more parenthesis. There we go. That cleans it up nicely. So let's take this for a test here. And it should be fine. Hit play. And then I can move it up and move it down. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Now, one thing you might have noticed is when we started the game, the paddle was wherever I left it. Let's just fix that by going to the start and defining a position, because I think that will be the nicest thing to do, right? Just to clean that up a little bit. So right here, I could just define a player position. So player position will equal, and we can just do new vector 2. And remember, this will just happen once. So we'll just make this identical. So negative 11.5. Oops. And then I think we just do 0 there. That will just update the position. So transform dot position is equal to player pos. There we go. And so what this will do is set, when the game begins, we make sure our player paddle is in this sort of start position. I think that is probably a good idea. So let's just take a look at that. Okay, so at the moment, it's down here, but if I hit play, it will automatically go there. Okay, it should. There it is. Okay, so it's right in the center. That's pretty good. And right, we've got a player paddle working already. There's a few things we still need to do, and we'll talk about those later. We're going to get the ball moving and then see what we can do to make sure that it's colliding and so on. Good, but I hope we got a good start off here, and we'll stop it.